The conflict between the United States, Israel, and Iran has entered a dangerous new phase, raising fears of a wider regional war and serious global consequences. 8 days into the conflict, intense military strikes continue across multiple fronts in the Middle East. The United States and Israel have dramatically expanded their military campaign against Iran, while Iran has responded with missile and drone attacks targeting American bases and neighboring Gulf states. In Washington, President Donald Trump has warned that the United States may escalate its military operations even further. According to the White House, the U.S. military is considering additional targets inside Iran as the conflict intensifies. The president claims American forces have already destroyed dozens of Iranian naval vessels within just 3 days of fighting, calling the operation a necessary step to prevent Iran from acquiring nuclear weapons. The Trump administration argues that the strikes were essential to stop what it describes as an imminent nuclear threat from Tehran. U.S. officials insist that without the recent air campaign, Iran could have been months away from producing a nuclear weapon. However, the war has triggered strong reactions both domestically and internationally. Across the United States, demonstrations have erupted in major cities including Los Angeles, New York, Boston, and Washington, D.C. Some rallies show support for the administration's military action, while others demand an immediate end to the war. Public opinion appears deeply divided. Recent surveys suggest that a majority of Americans are uneasy about the escalating conflict. Many fear that the United States could be drawn into another prolonged and costly war in the Middle East. Critics in Congress argue that the administration has not clearly explained the immediate threat posed by Iran or the long-term objectives of the campaign. While many Republican lawmakers support the president's decision, even some allies have warned against expanding the war further. In particular, there is strong opposition to deploying American ground troops inside Iran or allowing the conflict to continue indefinitely. Meanwhile, the war is spreading beyond Iran's borders. Several Gulf countries have experienced missile and drone strikes believed to be launched from Iranian territory. Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates have all reported attempted or intercepted attacks. In Dubai, a dramatic incident near the city's international airport caused widespread alarm. Video circulating online showed what appeared to be a drone striking close to airport facilities, sending a large plume of smoke into the air. Authorities briefly suspended flight operations at the airport, one of the busiest aviation hubs in the world, before reopening it later in the day. Later that night, residents reported another loud explosion in Dubai's Marina district, an area popular with tourists and international residents. Officials say the blast was caused by the interception of an incoming aerial threat and confirmed that no injuries were reported. Security forces in the United Arab Emirates say they have intercepted numerous projectiles since the conflict began, including missiles and dozens of drones believed to have been launched from Iran. These attacks have heightened fears that the conflict could engulf the entire Gulf region. At the same time, inside Iran itself, the humanitarian situation is becoming increasingly severe. US and Israeli airstrikes have targeted military infrastructure, weapons facilities, and command centers across the country. Iranian emergency authorities report that hundreds of people have been killed since the war began. Large areas of several cities have been damaged by bombing, and communication from inside the country remains limited due to a government-imposed internet shutdown. Residents in the capital, Tehran, describe days of continuous explosions and air raid sirens. Many families have taken shelter indoors as the bombardment continues. Some neighborhoods have reportedly suffered heavy destruction, with blast waves shattering windows and damaging residential buildings. Beyond Iran, Israel has also expanded its military operations in Lebanon. The Israeli military says it has carried out a large wave of strikes targeting positions in Beirut and other areas believed to be controlled by Hezbollah. Lebanese health officials report that nearly 300 people have been killed since the strikes intensified. Entire communities have been forced to flee as bombardments continue in several regions of the country. The violence has displaced thousands of civilians, including families who had already escaped earlier conflicts in the region. Many refugees now find themselves once again searching for safety as fighting spreads across borders. The war is also severely disrupting travel and transportation throughout the Middle East. Airspace closures across multiple countries have stranded tourists and business travelers. Some airports have suspended operations due to security threats, while others are struggling to maintain normal flight schedules amid the ongoing missile and drone attacks. Travelers attempting to leave the region have faced chaotic journeys involving long detours and last-minute cancellations. In some cases, passengers have been forced to travel across deserts and multiple countries by road just to reach airports where flights are still operating. But the consequences of the conflict extend far beyond the Middle East. One of the most serious concerns for the global economy is the Strait of Hormuz, a narrow waterway that serves as one of the most critical energy routes in the world. Roughly 1/5 of global oil and gas supplies pass through this channel every day. The strait lies between Iran to the north and Oman to the south, and tensions in the region have already disrupted maritime traffic. Hundreds of oil tankers are currently waiting near the strait, unwilling to pass through due to fears of potential attacks. Iran has previously warned that it could target ships attempting to transport oil through the passage during wartime, raising the risk of a major disruption to global energy supplies. Financial markets have already reacted. Oil prices have surged dramatically since the conflict began, with global benchmark crude climbing sharply over the past week. Analysts warn that if the war continues or expands further, prices could rise to levels not seen in years. Higher oil prices could quickly ripple across the global economy, increasing transportation costs, raising heating bills, and pushing up the price of everyday goods. Airlines are already feeling the impact. The cost of jet fuel has reportedly doubled in recent days, forcing carriers to reconsider flight routes and ticket prices. Industry experts warn that prolonged instability in the region could lead to higher airfare and possible flight cancellations during peak travel seasons. Despite the overwhelming military advantage held by the United States and Israel, analysts say the outcome of the conflict remains uncertain. In pure military terms, American and Israeli forces currently dominate the skies over Iran. Their advanced aircraft and precision weapons allow them to strike strategic targets across the country with relative ease. However, Iran still possesses tools that could complicate the situation. Iran's strategy may not rely on defeating its opponents militarily, but instead on prolonging the conflict. By continuing missile attacks, disrupting regional stability, and threatening global energy supplies, Iran could attempt to create enough political and economic pressure to force its adversaries to scale back their operations. In other words, survival itself could be considered a form of victory for Tehran. The timeline of the war remains unclear. US officials initially suggested the campaign could be brief if Iran quickly conceded, but as the fighting intensifies, the prospect of a short conflict appears increasingly unlikely. Even if large-scale combat ends within weeks, the political and economic aftershocks of the war could last for years. For now, the Middle East stands at a critical crossroads, with missiles flying, cities under bombardment, and global markets on edge. The conflict between the United States, Israel, and Iran is rapidly becoming one of the most dangerous geopolitical crises in recent history. Whether the war expands further or moves toward a fragile ceasefire may shape not only the future of the region, but the stability of the entire world.